Why do we suffer? If you see, all suffering is associated with the mind. That is what the scriptures say. That is what masters have said. But it's about an aspect of the mind and not the total mind that they are talking about. And that aspect of the mind is associated with experiencing the highs and the lows. When mind gets identified with a particular pattern, it seeks the pattern. Now, the conscious mind may say that I want pleasure, I want to be happy, I want to be peaceful, I don't want conflict in relationships, I want to be loving to all. But then there is a deeper aspect of the mind which can be called subconscious or unconscious. I just call it the deep mind. That mind has its own intelligence and it does not necessarily reconcile with the conscious mind. And generally what happens is that the deep mind is associated, is attached to a pattern where it would create the problem in the first place and then try to find a solution to the problem. So one may be in a foul mood, and then one may be emotionally charged, and we may dump our emotions onto others, and we may express a lot of emotion, and then after that, when we feel relaxed, when we feel soothed, we enjoy the closeness or the comfort that that our partner or our parent or our children have given us. So you see, it is a roller coaster ride. There will be a high emotional charge, there will be a drama associated with it, there will be dialogue associated with it. You don't do this for me, this is not right, that is not right. There is a lot of emotional charge associated with it. And then there is reconciling, and then there is understanding that that was unwarranted, and then it can be called as, just making up in a romantic relationship. And then the mind enjoys the pleasure of that. So it is addicted to this never-ending cycle of pleasure and pain. And where does this come from? It comes from believing that one is separate from the rest, which is the root of all conflicts. When one believes that they are separate, one gets identified with the personal story. The mind attaches itself to the personal story. Until there is an attachment to the personal story, there will be suffering. And the personal story can be something like, I did not have a good childhood and I'm unworthy, and therefore I have these patterns of reactivity, this emotional charge. And sometimes mind uses that to justify even the emotional charge. Now it's okay, because generally the person who is experiencing this cannot see what's happening, because they are so in grip of emotions, they cannot see that it's happening to them. And there is a concentration of energy What that means is there is a high buildup of stress in the body. Now, psychologists can call it personality disorders or any other fancy name can be given to it. I simply see it as stress. It's just stress. And this stress is simply associated with one's attachment to their personal story. This happened to me, that happened to me, my life is a mess, my game is a mess. And it keeps justifying, the mind keeps justifying to itself that because so much happened to me in my life, I'll continue to behave in the way I want to. The mind that is charged does not have any capacity to introspect or to reflect at its behavior. In fact, sometimes when we are experiencing this with other people, when they are emotionally charged, we have a tendency to give them pointers, to give them teachings, to tell them that look at this, this is what is happening with you. But till the mind is charged with emotions, it has no capacity for any rational contemplation or reflection. It is just completely in grips of the personal story, which comes from the belief that one is separate from the rest. To be able to see this whole movement, there has to be a total vision of what is happening. There has to be a greater vision of what is happening. That how this pattern is constantly being repeated in one's life, and how sometimes this pattern breaks relationships. And to some degree, this kind of thing happens to all of us, including myself. Sometimes I do find myself a bit charged. The only thing is that when the sense of separate self, or when the belief that one is separate from the rest is low, that charge does not carry forward in time for longer durations. The charge drops. Sometimes it just drops instantaneously. Sometimes it takes a while. But it drops. It does not continue constantly for days or months. It does not create suffering. It does not create resentment or hatred or feelings of malice or spite towards the other. And in such a mind where this realization has happened, the realization of unity, one does not project outwards. That is, whenever there is an uncomfortable emotion, one simply withdraws into one's own self to experience the intensity of stress that has arisen. All that happens is simply being with that stress, and the light of pure consciousness, that energy, simply dissolves that stress, and nothing needs to be done. It's all stress. We can give it different fancy name, but our body contains that stress, and sometimes the mind is not in sync with the body. So conscious mind may say that I have given up my personal story, that I don't have any connection with my past, but that may not be true. So one needs to sit and deeply examine what is happening, and that examination can happen when there is no emotional charge. So telling anybody that they should not be emotionally charged when they are does not help. It does not give them that space. It's actually unkind to tell them that. All that can be done is to just give one's presence, provided their degree of unconsciousness is not very high, where they are a threat to your physical safety or even to your psychological safety. So, pointers from the masters is that give up your sense of separate self and the suffering will be gone. The momentary pain may appear. The emotional roller coaster may still happen, the pattern may still happen, but it will not continue to propagate in horizontal time and create these divisions and conflicts that we experience in daily living. Rumi says, die before you die. He is not talking about the physical death. He is talking about the death of the separate self. When the separate self dies, the reactions are simply seen for what they are. The patterns are seen for what they are. The individual's conditioning is seen for what it is. And there is usually not a need to do anything about it, but to let the emotional charge and reactivity fade away in the light of consciousness from where it arose. It just goes back into the same consciousness. The being, the shared amness, the shared isness, the oneness is an infinite ocean of pure love. And that love includes people's emotional reactivity. It includes everything. It includes all the charge that is associated with the mind. It includes the mind's belief that it is separate. But eventually, the mind subsides. And we all experience this in deep sleep. When we are in deep sleep, there is no mind, therefore there is no separation. The separation happens when we wake up in the morning and think, I am so and so, and this has been my past, and this has been my life. When I start identifying with the story, the false narrative that my mind is telling me, when my mind tells me that I'm unworthy, I'm unloved, that people are going to leave me eventually, it is all tied up to a past story, to a traumatic childhood perhaps, or to bullying that one experienced in school and other places. It is all tied up to the story. So masters would say, give up your personal story and you're free. The patterns may still happen, but their duration will be very short. In fact, they will be momentary. And they will not stop us from living a peaceful life. And peace is one's birthright. Peace is something which is readily available here and now. To break apart from the story, all that needs to be done is to just be here and now. That's it. In this very moment, there is no story, there is nothing, there's nobody, and nothing is happening in this moment. It is only the mind that is identified with the past. And in identification with the past, it creates a future projection, which is based on fear, which is based on anxiety. Identification with that future projection creates suffering, creates pain. Therefore, give up the personal story and you're free. I wish you all a good day. Take care.